fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV. We are back after a couple weeks break broadcasting Fixed Indy Australia by Aussie Online Gaming. It is the penultimate round of the season at Pocono Raceway, running the legacy version because that's what's being run in the official iRacing Indy Car series. So the drivers will be dealing with a surface that's a sight more bumpy than it is in the real world at this time. Either way, it's going to be an interesting one here at the oval that drives like a road course. And to bring it to you all here live on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, with Brad Wingard alongside me in the commentary box. Brad, the drivers have just completed qualifying and we're getting ready for racing at one of the most unusual super speedways in America.
Yeah, good evening, Reese. It definitely is, and unlike Talladega and Daytona that very clearly have three corners, Pocono actually has three corners, and they're all very different and very unique. It's why people love coming here. It's such a quick track, and like you said, an old bumpy surface. We saw that at Vegas a few weeks ago. Caught a couple of drivers out, so it's going to be interesting to see how they tackle this one here as well. And this one's just as fast, but a little bit longer.
Indeed it is, and Pocono has often been a very popular addition to series schedules in the sim sphere, and certainly in real life as well. IndyCar racing at Pocono always puts on a show. You can say the same for NASCAR divisions as well. Well, we're looking at our pole man, Job Stewart. He is currently second place in the drivers' standings, catching back up to Cameron Dance after taking the win last round at Motegi. These are the standings as they are. As you can see, it's quite close up at the front. There's still potential for Sam Blacklock to break into that title fight coming into the final round, but at the moment, Brad, it looks like it's largely between Job and Cam.
Yeah, it really is, and Cam Dance is having a few connection issues at the moment, hasn't been able to set a qualifying time. Sam is on pole with Job Stewart in third, right behind him, so that's going to be really interesting to see how those guys navigate it, because obviously they both want to win, but they also can't sacrifice a good race result if Cam does manage to get back into the server in time and then extend that lead further. So it's going to be really interesting to see those two fight out for what we think will be second place, if not for the overall championship win.
Yeah, my apologies. I misnamed Job Stewart as the pole man, but Sam Blacklock has run the fastest time in qualifying. Oh, and that's something you're going to have to watch out for at this track, especially out of that very high-banked Turn 1, which is modelled after the now-defunct Trenton Speedway in New Jersey. That was Brady Carr giving the wall a bit of a tap, and even more of a tap coming through Turn 2. There's definitely potential there to slam hard into the barriers. You've got to, it's basically a pinhole that you've got to navigate on your way through Turn 2 here.
Yeah, it's such a difficult section. Well, this whole track is just difficult because those corners are so different, sorry. And it is a 5-lane circuit, give or take, but you have such a precise window to work, and we've seen many people in NASCAR, like eNASCAR, Indy Car, in real life and not come undone through turn 2, especially modeled after Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which you can very much see the likeness when you're out there on track. But it can catch you out so quickly. You think this is a super speedway, so it's flat all the time, but that gives you such a fine operating window, and if you don't, you end up with the wall, which we've seen a lot of people doing in practice already.
Yes, that we have. Well, the 5-minute warm-up is now over, and we can jump into the starting grid. It's Sam Blacklock who ran the fastest time. He'll share the first row with Series Administrator Dan Yeaman. Job Stewart, Championship second place, starting alongside Tyson Broad, with Brady Carr and Ben Johnson rounding out the top 6. Starting out of 7th, it's going to be Matthew Bowler. He's got Scott Rankin and the number 49 by him. Pursuit Sim Racing's Sebastian Flock will start out of 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Zach Kerr, Daniel Stevens and Blair Bowler in 11th and 12th. It's a small field here tonight. Nathan Gardner starting out a lucky 13th alongside Simon Mazzomo. Then we got Matt Dance and the first driver not to set a qualifying time, Cameron Dance, championship leader, dealing with those connection issues. And Mitchell McLeod and Zach Mitchell round out our field. So it's not a huge field tonight here at Pocono, Brad, but the racing should still be fantastic.
Yeah, it definitely should. Massive draft trains, and if we don't see 3-wide action at a fair few places, then I am going to be surprised, and these guys are going to need to come in for a pit stop. Critical lap is around lap 20. Fuel tank will last 30 to 32 laps, so pit stops are going to be very important. You're going to want to pit together to keep that draft train up, but more importantly, as you can see on screen now, pit exit comes right out onto the racing line. Not something we see very often anymore, especially with the newer iRacing pit exit updates, so that might be catching a few drivers out and putting some people in very precarious positions.
That it might. We'll see how it works out. Of course, that is considering that the pit, that is assuming pit stops will be under green flag, which they may very well not be. The series has traditionally been quite caution heavy when they come to oval circuits. So that's certainly something the drivers will have to look out for. Here's everyone on the Zoom wall. Got one of them up there in the top left, really getting into the immersion factor. Simon Mazzomo wearing his helmet. We've got the likes of Daniel Stevens down there on the middle right as well. He went paintballing today and got hit 27 times in the back, so he's already a little battered and bruised. The bumpy surface here at Pocono won't be doing him any favours. Cameron Dance down in the bottom left, and Sam Blacklock bottom right. But a full complement of drivers here getting ready to take the start here at Pocono. They've just exited turn 2 on the single formation lap. And coming into turn 3, which is modelled off the Milwaukee Mile, very flat final turn here at Pocono Raceway. And it's going to prioritise mechanical grip over aero in a lot of cases, but these cars are still able to carry a huge amount of speed through there. The pace car will pull away and into the pits momentarily, and Sam Blacklock will control the field as they come up to the start. Green flag flies, and Blacklock got away early. He took everyone by surprise there. Dan Yeaman briefly blocking the advance of Job Stewart, but Job might get some overlap on him when they come into turn 1 for the first time. Tyson Broad on the outside of Job Stewart coming into turn 1. The field streams through. Fantastic stuff seeing Indy Cars racing at Pocono, but we've already got a car getting up into the wall. Simon Mazzomo, he was running side by side and just got pushed up a little into the wall as Blair Bowler made his way past him. Fortunately, he seems to have escaped any meaningful damage. Sam Blacklock is still leading the way by 0.4 of a second. But back in the field, we see one of the drop bear cars of Brady Carr having some issues there. Might have just caught the wall as Sebastian Flock spins in turn 2, gets turned around and collects Simon Mazzomo. and the caution is out. First one of the race. That's a huge shame there.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I'm not sure if I'm surprised or not that the caution came out that quickly. Very fast corner. These tyres do take a little bit of time to get up to temperature. Here's a replay thanks to VRS as always. Coming round turn 2. It was turn 2, yeah, so we're heading into turn 3 now. A lot of dirty air in front of Sebastian Flock, so losing a lot of that aero and gets on that white line. The little rumble strip on the inside catches Mitch McLeod for good luck, and then as we saw Simon Mazzomo coming through because all things come in threes, so very unfortunate for Sebastian Flock. Here we are on board with McLeod now, so that's Flock just up ahead. Not much time for McLeod to react at all to that spinning car. He does his best, but car on the outside, not really many places he can go.
Yeah, very difficult there for McLeod to avoid that, but it looks like he just might have. Sebastian Flock has come into the pit lane and gotten his spare car. Here's the view on board from Simon Mazzomo. You see Flock, that little flash of blue up ahead. Coming through turn 2, things working out okay, but you'll see the puff of smoke and the telltale sideways moment there for Flock. Where does Mazzomo decide to go? Not quite sure. Flock, though, moving up the racetrack as he spun around, and there was nothing Mazzomo could do from that point on. So, the field has been neutralised behind the pace car, and no surprise to see that the majority of the field are deciding not to come into the pits, but Daniel Stevens and Mitchell McLeod have decided to jump in. Interesting decision there. Maybe McLeod is carrying a little damage, or perhaps, since they're so far down in the field, they're looking to take a little bit of fuel, a little splash and dash at this stop. And if you're back in the field in oval racing, often that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we've seen it countless times, both in this series and the Indy 500 for the Major Series from last year comes to mind as well. We saw a lot of people continuously pitting under the safety car. That start of the race was so full of safety cars. They had such a huge advantage when it came to normal scheduled stops. So this isn't a bad idea when you're down the back of the pack. It'll save some time on their stop around between laps 20 and 30. So not a bad position for them to be in, especially like you said, they are down the field. So I have to watch that one closely to see how much of a gain they truly get come those compulsory pit stops.
Indeed. Lights still on the pace car. We will be out for an extra lap here. But for Sam Blacklock, it's just a case of, hey, I led the majority of the way around lap 1. I got the start I needed, and I will try and continue this run as best I can. It's going to be single file restarts, as is customary in IndyCar. Quite a big spread of the field. They're pretty much taking up the entire second straight there as Blacklock makes his way into turn 3. But from this point, the drivers up at the front at least, they're not worrying about jumping in for fuel or tyres or anything like that. It's simply too early in the race. We're going to have to start waiting until the middle phase, I think, to really see these guys come in.
Yeah, if we even see a caution around lap 15, halfway to that pit stop, I think we'll see a fair chunk of people come in, especially, you know, the top 5 or 6 or so, just to help them in their second stop, because everyone's going to have to pit after lap 20 to be able to make it home. So if there's a caution just before that, I wouldn't be surprised to see a fair chunk of people come in just to minimize that time lost in the lane. Or I could be completely wrong and they'll throw a curveball, but I feel like that's kind of the expected thing to see.
Yes, might very well be. Well, Sam Blacklock, given the jump that he got on that initial start, he'll probably be looking to repeat the same thing here on this restart. So Dan Yeaman has to be right on it here to try and keep pace with the Altus Esports number 25. But he's also got to be careful of the battling from behind. Tyson Broad managed to make it into third versus Job Stewart in that little bit of racing we did get. So he might very well be on a charge here. But the likes of Matthew Bowler, Blair Bowler, Cameron Dance as well, making his way up through the field. Remember, Dance started in 15th, and he's currently up to 11th, so championship leader wasting no time trying to work his way forward. But we'll be getting a restart fairly soon here, and they should be able to form up single file soon. Looks like they're trying to stay double file for the most part. Surely they will form their way into their two groups, or out of their two groups rather. It seems the majority of them are sticking here with inside and outside running as the green flag flies. Blacklock getting an even start, but it was a good jump from Job Stewart. He's going to pass Dan Yeaman on the outside down the start-finish straight and collect Tyson Broad on the way through as well. Up into second for Job Stewart. Timed that restart perfectly. And oh, just getting a bit crossed up over the curbs there was Tyson Broad. Understeering through turn one. We have the caution out once again. There's a car off at the back. That's Brady Carr.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. I think there was an issue with the server settings, so that's why we had the 2x2 restart, which is, like you said, very uncommon. This is the replay of that start now, and we're coming into turn one, and everything seems to be okay. 3 wide alongside, and just catching that inside curb again. Thankfully, looks like no one else was collected. That was Seb Flock and Simon Mizoma going outside and inside respectively, so they managed to escape another unfortunate spinning crash through the early stages of the lap. But now we reset. This is on board with Simon Mizoma coming into turn one, and you'll see exactly what happens from his on board now.
Yeah, so look for the deep red drop bear car just up ahead there. Car on the inside and catching that curb. Mizomo sees the door open to the inside and grabs it there. Very well timed and well executed from the new privateer. Mizomo was a part of Drop Bear Motorsport until recently, just a couple of weeks ago, leaving that team and racing on his own for the time being. So, now we reset once again. Does anyone decide to come into the pits this time round? Looking at my timing, it seems Matt Danson elected not to take the start, and I'm a little surprised at that, because if you want successful oval races from Australia and New Zealand, Matt Danson is one of the names that pops up. And then he certainly had some great results in this series in the past, even taking the win at one point. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shame not to see him in the field tonight.
Yeah, it definitely is. He was having some issues getting to grips with the car, I think, which might be reason to not race, which around a track like this is understandably fair. We have a beautiful zoom feed from Tyson Broad now over his left shoulder. Triple screen setup would be working dreams around a track like this when you're going 3 wide into turn one on a restart. So, very good shot. We thank all the drivers for jumping onto Zoom. It helps bring this broadcast more to life. Is that the right thing that I want to use? It makes it more authentic and involved, and we thank everyone for joining on the Zoom feed who does. And we should be getting ready to go soon. Dan Stevens, I believe, has just made another transit through the lane, unless my timing is telling me fibs.
Looks like it. He's now visited the pits 3 times in this race so far. And that's something that we've seen Dan doing quite a bit this season, being one of those drivers who always peels into the pits every lap under caution. But he's not going to get another chance to do that because the caution has been shortened by excuse me, shortened by race control. Lights are off on the pace car, and we will be getting our restart to begin lap 8 of 50. It's still Sam Blacklock in the lead, but Job Stewart making that charge on the last restart. He has quite the opportunity here to get some big championship points, especially with a lot of distance still between himself and Cameron Dance. And Dance took the pits under this caution, so he's trying to think about the late stages of this race. Pace car is coming in just a second. There it goes, pulling off. Wait for the green flag. Well, Sam Blacklock isn't waiting. He's gone early. And the weave starts down the front straight. Second restart of the night in Fixed Indy Australia. And Sam Blacklock has a good gap over Job Stewart. The second, third and fourth fight breaking away from the rest of the field. Scott Rankin getting a mother of a run through turn 2. Stewart goes defensive. Rankin was able to carry quite a bit of speed there, going a little higher. And it looks like he might grab the position as they come into turn 2. He's going to stay wide and give Job Stewart a bit of space. Oh, they come very close to coming together. They actually might have made a bit of ghost contact there. But it's on for second place already in these early stages. Rankin running a bit wide through turn 3. Could give an advantage to Tyson Broad. Rankin's doing quite well in this race. Advanced through the field from 8th place and now still fighting for a podium position. On board with Rankin briefly, but looking back, Tyson Broad might be going for the move here at turn 1, but it seems Rankin is incredibly comfortable there, running a little higher. Look at the run it gives him down the straight.
Yeah, that's the beauty of that, and he goes to the inside now on Job Stewart. Through turn 2, Job leaves just enough room. Job has absolutely shown his worth in this series, both his aggression and his awareness when driving. We have another caution, and that is a big one. That's Ben Johnson. I reckon that's Seb Flock, and I'm not sure who else was involved with that one. Blair Bowler, I think, as well.
Yeah, with Benjamin Johnson too involved in that crash. Goodness me, that was huge. It looks to me like Zach Kerr and Benjamin Johnson came together coming through turn 2 and looked a little optimistic from what I'm seeing here. So we'll focus on Benjamin Johnson here as he gets the run on Pursuit Sim Racing Zach Kerr. Kerr stays to the inside coming into turn 2 and Johnson goes for the outside line, but then it looks like Kerr got a little crossed up on the inside and got sent a little up the racetrack. There was a good amount of space given, but the gap just narrowed and both of them came together, collecting a few cars in the process.
Yeah, that's the nature of these sort of tracks. It doesn't take much, and especially with how the walls come out at you through these corners. This is on board with Blair Bowler now, coming up towards turn 2 now. See them side by side through the corner.
Oh, Bowler got hit.
Actually got a bit of contact. I'm not sure who that was. I think that was Mitch McLeod up the inside of turn 2. So that definitely made that situation a whole lot worse for Blair Bowler as well, because I think he would have been able to avoid that otherwise.
Yeah, might just have been able to. We'll check it out here. Nathan Gardner was the one who made contact with Blair Bowler, and it looks like Gardner might have gotten a little involved in that as well. Some slight damage to the front right. But apart from that, here's the view from Mitchell McLeod. He was right behind Johnson and Kerr. They both come together just up ahead, and McLeod, good incident avoidance there. And look at the majority of the field coming into the pits here.
Yeah, it's near enough for 15 laps. Oh, I said 15, but end of lap 10, I'll take that. So these guys still on that. Oh, Simon Mizomo had a bit of a moment in the pits. I don't know what's just happened to him.
Yeah.
Locked his rear brakes and is perpendicular to the pit wall is a little less than ideal. Gets to the replay of that now. That was not what I expected to see.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, he tries to slow down for his pit box, and then, yeah, it looks like the rear's just locked up when he was coming to a stop. Might have been a little distracted by Mitchell McLeod moving out of his pit box just up ahead of him. Unfortunate there for Simon Mazzomo. He had to waste a few seconds getting the car righted, but since we're under caution, he's not lost out all that much. Still remains on the lead lap, and will be able to catch up to the rest of the field. And with that, it looks like Zach Kerr is our first retirement of the night, disconnecting from the server, and probably none too happy about that incident with Benjamin Johnson. Johnson, meanwhile, is in the pits and could be getting some damage repaired. Yeah, looks like he is. He's just getting that damage repaired manually, not going for the fast repair this time. But Simon Mazzomo will be trying his best to work his way forward as he catches up with the rest of the field, forms up behind them. And we should be going green pretty soon here, Brad. These guys have not gotten much time to put on any actual racing, but as it stands, it seems that Sam Blacklock, Job Stewart, and Tyson Broad are the ones to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cam Dance is slowly but surely making his way through the field, especially given that he pitted under caution last lap. So Matt Bowler we see in 5th position, up 2 spots from his start. It's a pretty good run so far. Biggest losers, excluding those who are out of the race, is Dan Stevens, who is pitting every lap under caution. Otherwise, Scott Rankin down 3 spots. So everyone else pretty even or only minor gains or losses. But then Cam Danson, Zach Mitchell up 8 each. So those guys are the ones avoiding their accident, the accidents around them, and being benefactors of that. Ben Johnson has also decided to call it a night. So that's very unfortunate for Bort Sim Sport, but I'm sure he will be back next week for the grand finale. But that leaves us with 15 cars still running.
That it does. And on the subject of Scott Rankin, he pitted under this caution. Remember, he was fighting for 3rd and 4th just before. He's decided to just hedge his bets, get some service done to his car. So, Sam Blacklock versus Job Stewart at the front of the field. These guys 3rd and 2nd in the championship respectively. But Job will want every position he can between himself and Cameron Dance, who is rapidly approaching whenever there is racing action to be had. Dan Yeaman's still hanging around there in 4th place. He could still be a factor in the podium battle.
Yeah, he definitely couldn't. Qualifying and practice pace very much held up for Daniel Yeaman as well. So down 2 spots is not necessarily an awful start. He's still there, just tailing that. Because we go green. My apologies, I completely missed it.
Well, Sam Blacklock getting off to an even start. Job Stewart and Tyson Broad breaking away with him at the front of the field. Yeaman wasn't quite on the button on that restart. Trying around the outside is Cameron Dance as Brady Carr gets a little crossed up in turn 1. Cameron Dance is advancing and he is now behind Matthew Bowler. A little bit of lost pace there for Carr, for Flock, for Zach Mitchell as well. He's getting passed by cars here back in the field. That's Mitchell McLeod, who's just made his way past him. Got Scott Rankin just up ahead, who's trying his best to find his way past Sebastian Flock. Look at how much value the slipstream gives you. Huge run down the straights as Brady Carr catches the curb again in turn 3 and brings out the caution.
Yeah, these guys are not having a great night of it. That's Zach Mitchell as well being caught up in that one. So both drop back cars and maybe Sebastian Flock as well down the back of the field. That is. So that'll be his night done as well. First fast repair used under that first caution, and that is not how he would have wanted his night to end. Here's a replay of it now, and yeah, absolutely nowhere to go. And Zach Mitchell as well just getting caught up in the spinning Seb Flock. So very unfortunate for all 3 of those drivers, and that'll be night done, I think.
Oh dear, on board with Zach Mitchell. You'll see his teammate just up ahead catch the curb and spin. Flock collects him, and yeah, I think Mitchell, he was already tracking towards the outside of the corner. Maybe a little bit of target fixation there as well. But regardless, contact was made, and Mitchell currently towing back to the pits to get those repairs done. Sebastian Flock in there as well. And it looks to me like, yeah, some pretty heavy damage on Sebastian Flock's car too. He's getting some manual repairs done. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, otherwise they're going to lose a couple of laps here. Interesting to see that go on.
No, you go. Your point is probably better than mine.
No, it's not. I was just going to make a pithy observation about how the pace car has to catch up to the front of the field.
Yeah, it's a very big issue at super speedways. I know Daytona is a very big problem with that. So you see pretty much all of the field pitting in now. That's Matt Bowler, I believe. No, it's Job Stewart coming in for an early pit stop. So I said lap 15 for the top 2 or 3. I'm taking that as well. Dan Yeaman, Brady Carr, Matthew Bowler, Simon Mizomo, all in the pits. The very limpy Brady Carr in the background. So about half the field pitting under that caution. Only drivers not to pit are Sam Blacklock and Tyson Broad. So they will have track position, which we have seen Dirty Air can put you in a pretty difficult position, but they're now on a at least 6-lap fuel difference because Mr. Championship leader Cam Dance is now up to 3rd position after his pit stop 8 laps ago.
So the cars that pitted just then, Job Stewart, Dan Yeaman, Simon Mazzomo, Matthew Bowler, Mitchell McLeod, Dan Stevens, no surprise there, and Brady Carr making his first stop of the night. Meanwhile, Zach Mitchell has gotten his repairs done, and he's come back out on track, but he is a lap down on the rest of the field. So if there's another caution that comes out, it's very likely that Mitchell will stay out to try and get his lap back.
And I think the important thing is, I don't know what the repair rate is like on the Indy cars, but if he hasn't used his fast repair, then that puts him in a very good position, because if there is another caution, which I think at this point we can call as very likely, then, and he does get caught up in that, then it's kind of worth that sacrifice to have that later in the race if he needs it, rather than burn through it now and then be in Sebastian Flock's position and, you know, be up a creek without a paddle. But speaking of Seb Flock, he has also just come out of the pits, so he just gets out in front of the safety car as well. So he's going to not drop an extra lap. So he'll be behind Zach Mitchell, both cars a lap down.
And they will be fighting for position, and I think it's pretty obvious to me. I think Zach Mitchell did not take his fast repair that time around. 2 minutes and 3 seconds stopped in his box, getting those manual repairs done. But at least Dan Yeaman seems to be having a little bit of fun there, a little flash of a smile right in the middle of this mosaic of drivers on Zoom. Cameron Dance seems to be having a bit of a good time too there in his hyperstimulator racing sim down on the bottom left. Caution's always a nice time to have a little joke around, but Daniel Stevens still in serious mode, at least until he lifts the drink to his mouth. And apparently that's a Heineken that he's drinking, so good taste there from Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, I think a few of the guys are making the most of racing on a Friday night tonight. Yeah, he sees himself on the Zoom feed. That's what we love. So good to see Dan having a good time, and I know a couple of the guys are joining him in that. So we love racing on a Friday night. We get to see the real character behind some of these very serious drivers otherwise. So everyone having a blast, even if some of their racing hasn't gone the way they wanted it. But I did see Seb Flock come back in the pits, but he's back out again. So he's doing his best to keep going. So we'll have to see how that one pans out. But I think we're ready to go green.
We are indeed. Pace car in. When does Sam Blacklock decide to go? At that specific point. And he gets a good run on the rest of the field. But there's a crash in the back of the field. The yellow immediately comes back out. Matthew Bowler, the main driver, to lose out from that. Looks like quite the checkup in the midfield. Blair Bowler and Job Stewart were side by side on the restart, and that checkup obviously catching a lot of drivers out. We'll check it out from the perspective of Matthew Bowler here. Everyone just trying to sort themselves out. The green flag comes out, but one of the drivers up ahead was a little slow in getting going, and they had to jump on the anchors, and Bowler, well, got tagged by Mitchell McLeod when the checkup happened.
Yeah, and Mitchell McLeod has decided to call it a night, and we don't blame him at all. That's a very unfortunate series of events for him, some very close calls, and not the greatest day otherwise. So unfortunate for Mitch McLeod, but we hope he enjoys his Friday night otherwise. But very strange checkup, especially in these cars. It's Sam Blacklock went a little bit early, but no different than he has been previously. So very strange, but Sam Blacklock seems to be keeping the gas into it a little bit. Oh, he's just catching up to the pace car.
And clutching it as he lifted off the throttle, trying to save as much fuel as he possibly can. in the Altus number 25.
Just
Sorry.
just getting word from our producer that Matthew Bowler was being a naughty driver and using his phone under caution, and I don't know if that was the precursor to that incident, but it probably wouldn't have helped. But he just managed to get his phone away before Jay brought him up on the Zoom feed, so nearly got caught in the act, did Matt Bowler, but I'm going to decide to make an example of him anyways. We saw Cam Dance, and I think that was Tyson Broad into the pits from 4th and 5th, so interesting call from them. They're nearly at critical laps, so under caution, pitting one up early, and Tyson Broad has done the exact same thing that Simon Mazzomo did on his pit a couple of laps ago. Maybe trying to work that caution to help them with that critical lap 20, and this might be them till the end.
Yes, rear's locking up for Tyson Broad. He had to reverse back into his pit bay to get that service done. But that leaves Sam Blacklock, our leader here, the only car not to take a pit stop so far. And you mentioned earlier, Brad, the critical lap is lap 20. Well, the caution will be coming to an end at the end of lap 20. So from that point on, Sam Blacklock will be able to pit and he'll be good to the end. Might only be able to make this on one pit stop. So strategy advantage in terms of fuel, I think, with Sam Blacklock for the time being, as long as he can stay out of trouble. But one thing you also have to consider is tyres in these cars. If there are some drivers out there that have taken tyres, then they're definitely going to be at an advantage here in the middle phase.
Yeah, they definitely will, and I think half a tank of fuel is enough for one set of front or rear or left or right tyres. I'm not sure how it works, but I think there's a little bit of a fuel coverage for tyres in these cars. So those guys that have pitted for, a part of a stint or Cam Dance for the rest of the race might have been able to take fuel with their, or tyres with their fuel. And that'll be interesting to see out. And Sam Blacklock again goes nice and early, breaking away from Scott Rankin behind. Nathan Gardner in 3rd place, right behind him. And a little bit of a gap back to Blair Bowler in 4th position. Job Stewart, though, going around the outside of him very early, getting a bit wiggly into turn 1.
Some big shuffling at the back of the field as well as Tyson Broad tries to work his way around the cars that lost out under previous cautions. Looks like a pretty clean restart. There's a little bit of bump drafting going on. Cameron Dance on the back of Brady Carr here coming into turn 2. Stay off the curbs, Brady. And he does it that time around. And getting a good advantage over Dance as well. But starting to catch up here to Job Stewart is Nathan Gardner, who started in 13th place. Looks to me like Job was actually classified behind him at the restart, sorry. So working his way back up is our championship 2nd place, but that's given a massive advantage to our race leader, Sam Blacklock. He leads by over a second from Scott Rankin, but everyone else is in a nice pack behind. Stewart holding off Gardner and Yeaman. There's a nice pack with Blair Bowler, Cameron Dance and Brady Carr. Dance makes the move on Carr and starts chasing down Blair Bowler a bit further back. This is Tyson Broad and Matthew Bowler working their way through positions 11 and 12. Broad running a little bit high in turn 2, but that's okay. You can save the tyres with a line like that as long as you don't clobber the wall, which he almost did out of turn 3.
So far, clean running throughout the field, touching wood. Bit of side-by-side action as well. Cam Dance holding it wide around turn 1 again, trying to work his way around Blair Bowler, and he's done just that on exit coming in towards turn 2. So that is now 6th position for Cam Dance. He is not the fastest car on track so far, but he's not far off it. That draft is definitely helping him. Sam Blacklock, in the meantime, 1.4 seconds up the road from Scott Rankin. So the clean air is becoming a beneficiary for Sam Blacklock in the lead. Side by side now, Dan Yeaman on Nathan Gardner and the inside on the run for turn 1. So that'll be 4th place for Dan Yeaman. Job Stewart 1.2 seconds up the road, so a bit of a slow start for Daniel on the first couple of restarts, but he's getting into that rhythm now that we have some clean or green flag running. This battle pack 10th down to 13th. Just behind them is starting to heat up a little bit. Dan Stevens, Matt Bowler, Simon Mazzomo all covered by a second. We've had a car in the wall. Was that Matt? No, it wasn't. I'm not sure who that was.
Well, Simon Mazzomo. His front right is destroyed. He's going to have to come into the lane. We stay green. Wasn't enough to bring out the caution. But, yeah, a little problem there for Mazzomo as Cameron Dance makes another move. That's him passing Nathan Gardner into the first turn. And that will be up to 5th now for Cam. And he is looking quite rapid as Blair Bowler then makes his way past Nathan Gardner. Will fall back into line on the way into turn 2.
Cam Dance is an absolute man on a mission now. He feels he is safe to the end. He might, 3 wide. Car Gardner and Broad down through turn 3 now. Broad in 9th place, sorry, and I think that's Dan Stevens right behind that pack as well. Nathan Gardner getting involved. Brady Carl leads this pack 6/10 off Blair Bowler in front, and this mid-pack battle is absolutely heating up between these 4 guys, 2x2 nearly. Stevens goes to the inside to make it 2x2. Just as I say that, the front guys just settle back into single file for a little while.
A breathe of the throttle from Nathan Gardner, and Dan Stevens is let through. Now he's got Matthew Bowler to work with here. Brilliant racing that we're seeing here from the back of Matthew Bowler on the left and from Dan Stevens' sim on the right. Oh, Bowler, he's getting so close to the wall on the exit of these turns, suffering a bit of understeer. It seems that Dan is swiftly working his way forward. This is the battle for 9th place. Just by the by. And drivers have separated out into their packs. Bowler, Broad and Carr in their own pack for 6th. But now Cameron Dance is within a second of Dan Yeaman. It could be on here for 4th.
Yeah, I've just been watching that delta slowly drop. It's been hovering around 1 second for a little while, so Cam Dance is really starting to show his race car off now that we've had some solid green flag running, and he's up 10 spots now. That was someone spinning into the pits. I don't know who that was.
It's Bowler.
Matt Bowler. I think he might have finally pushed that envelope a little bit too far. We'll get that replay of it now, but that was a horrendous spin.
It looks like there's 2 incidents we're going to be looking at here. The first of which, Nathan Gardner. Let's see what happened to him just going through turn 2 and losing the rear, but he goes onto the grass. Very heavy contact with the barrier. We stay green from that. And here's what happened to Matthew Bowler coming out of turn 3. Just a little bit of a tank slapper. He tried to recover it, but then slid straight into the pits. Goodness me, if it was real life and there were pit crews in the lane, that would have been disastrous.
Yeah, we do have the animated pit crew for the Indy Car, but thankfully they don't have a conscious or families at home, so close to that higher bundle at the end of pit lane as well. So as far as pit entrances go, that was definitely with flair, but definitely not the way that Bowler would have wanted that to happen. But like you said, we stay green, and very unfortunate as well for Nathan Gardner having his incident at a second gear hairpin on what would be the road course. But he managed to get it back to the pits and hasn't taken his fast repair yet, so we'll have to see what happens with him, but that might be race done unless he's still towing.
Well, the status at the moment, you see Blacklock leading by 3 seconds. Scott Rankin and Job Stewart, P2 and 3. But as we mentioned earlier, the battle for 4th is eventuating. Cameron Dance is now within a second of Dan Yeaman. The gap's at about 8-9 tenths, down to 7th now, as it looks like Dan Yeaman a little bit compromised through turn 3. He was sticking quite to the inside. actually looks like that might have just been him taking the corner. Not too sure what's going on there with Dan Yeaman, but either way, Cameron Dance is now well within draft range. And actually, I'm listening to Dan Yeaman, and it sounds like he's clutching on the way into the corners. Might be saving a bit of fuel here as Dance continues to round him up.
Well, it's been 15 laps since Dan Yeaman pitted. It's been 11 laps since Cam Dance pitted. Of course, Cam pitting on lap 19 under caution, so he should be able to make it to the end, even if he sticks with Dan here and uses his draft to save just a little bit of, pocket fuel just in cases. But Dan Yeaman is definitely going to have to pit again. So is pretty much everyone else. I think everyone except for Cam Dance at the moment is praying for a safety car, and Sam Blacklock's going to be in the lane within a number of laps. We're on lap 31. We should be getting 30 to 32 laps of fuel out of a tank, or so we were told by Cameron Dance pre-race. So he stays out for one more lap. We have had quite a few cautions, so we might be able to get 35, 36 laps. But he's still going to have to pit with, 5 laps to go. And here is that move for 4th place. It was only a matter of time. I don't think Dan Yeaman's really going to put up much of a fight, and he doesn't.
But he will stick within the slipstream of Cam Dance, knowing that Dance has the pace. And if there is another caution, then they'll be right there. But it's a race of a couple of conflicting strategies here. Sam Blacklock staying out under the cautions, maybe hoping for a caution later on in the race. But seems that there's been a good, clean run here. Blacklock's still the only car yet to make a pit stop in this race, and it's highly doubtful that he'll be able to make the race stop-free. We've had quite a few drivers in previous rounds who were able to try the no-stopper and almost make it to the end. Maybe Blacklock is hoping for the same there, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not he decides to jump into the pits in the next lap or two as Job Stewart chases down Scott Rankin for second place. You see the gap is under a second now, so could very well be on for the second spot on the podium.
Yeah, definitely could, and this is who we want to see at the pointy end. I mean, we want to see everyone at the pointy end, but Sam Blacklock, Job Stewart and Cam Dance, like we said, all within 20, 30 points of each other. So it is anyone's guess who might win this championship, and seeing the three of them right up the front of the field is what we want to see with, 1.5 races to go, 1 lap and 17 laps to go. And Job catching Scott Rankin for second place just adds to the drama, because currently he leads Sam Blacklock by 16 points, so that point swing is going to help him tremendously if he can make that one extra position, keeping in mind all of these guys will have to pit for fuel, except for Cam Dance, we suspect. So it's going to be very interesting to watch this one play out, because Job's not catching Sam. He's got nice clean air and is pulling a fantastic margin over the field. But if Job can't pass in time and there is a caution, then he might be in a lot of trouble.
Might be indeed. So there's still plenty to think about in the later stages of this, the penultimate round of Fixed Indy Australia. Next week we go to Watkins Glen to round out the season on a road course. And the road course races have always been a fantastic strategy battle with the tyre choices that drivers have. But we'll focus on Pocono for the time being. The single tyre compound, the fuel runs, battling with the cautions. Dan Yeaman and Tyson Broad. Well, we saw Yeaman. He was a little bit down on pace earlier. He's let Cameron Dance get away from him. And it looks like Tyson Broad is on his way to jumping past Dan as well in the battle for the top 5.
Yeah, Dan Yeaman having fantastic one-lap pace tonight, but not quite having the long-run car or the tyre preservation that those around him are managing to have. Like you did say, he was saving fuel with clutching into corners. That's Zach Mitchell into the pits now for his final stop with 15 laps to go. So one can only assume that Sam Blacklock is not too far away either. 37 laps run for him so far. Well, at the end of this lap, it'll be 37 plus the formation lap, of course. So, yeah, Dan Yeaman is on the massive fuel save at the moment, but he's losing a lot more time than I expected he would to Tyson Broad and Cam Dance in front. So now I think all eyes will be on Sam Blacklock in the next few laps as he comes into turn 3 as Job Stewart and Scott Rankin come out of turn 2. So massive lead for Blacklock at the moment, but when he pits is going to really shake up this race, if he pits.
Yeah, and the if is the big question here. If Sam is able to make this race on a no-stopper, that would be astounding. It would mean that he was saving like crazy under caution, just sitting on the clutch pretty much the whole way through. He's showing very little sign of any kind of stress on his face. You see him on the right-hand side. He's just in full-on focus mode as Job Stewart navigates the track on the left side. Will Blacklock actually come into the pits, or is there something extra going on in the Altus garage that we're not aware of? Another lap completed, and he'll make it 12 laps to go on the same fuel tank.
Yeah, and I've been looking at his lap times. His fastest lap was a 43.009. Last lap was a 43.015. So 4 thousandths of a second between last lap and his fastest. So his consistency is absolutely phenomenal. He's phenomenal. 8 tenths of a second quicker than Scott Rankin behind. So that's Brady Carr in the field, and that's a caution. And Sam Blacklock is either singing his prayers or cursing to every god on earth, but Zach Mitchell having a spin through turn 1, which has brought out what we hope will be the final caution of the race. And Sam Blacklock again has stayed out.
This is what happened to Zach Mitchell. He just completed a green flag pit stop, but coming into turn 1, the bumps on the inside obviously not working very well with those cold tyres. Fortunately, everyone avoiding him as he spun through turn 1. And now that there is this caution that has come out, I think Sam Blacklock stands a higher than 80% chance, as Ten Yeaman's avoiding action is showcased. Stands quite a good chance of completing this race on a no-stopper, does Sam Blacklock.
Yeah, it's definitely working in his favour now. And I'm assuming if he hadn't pitted by about lap 35, then he'd be in a good chance to take it to the end. And with 11 laps to go and another caution, this is only helping him. Unless he was 1 or 2 laps away from his pit stop, and now he's going to be caught out. But this pit entry is going to be very interesting. And I had an update from Ben Johnson, who had his crash 29 laps ago. Apparently the car would not sit still in the pit box. It was that damaged. The fast repair didn't work and gave him 3 hours of repair time. And given this race is scheduled to run for an hour and 30 minutes maximum, I don't think he was going to be able to finish the race. So that's why he retired, unfortunately.
That's a big shame for Ben Johnson. It's always frustrating when you jump into the pits to try and... Oh, here we go. Sam Blacklock going into the lane, finally. Is this going to be the undoing of his race? Not too sure. Tyson Broad thought about following him in there. Or was that Scott Rankin? I think it was, it was Scott Rankin who was almost following him in, but also joining Blacklock in the pits, Cameron Dance, Blair Bowler, Daniel Stevens, and Sebastian Flock, who has... Sebastian Flock is on the verge of making his way back onto the lead lap, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen for him now. So that promotes Scott Rankin into the lead of this race. Job Stewart second, Dan Yeaman third, as Tyson Broad staying out to remain in 4th place too. But Sam Blacklock back out of the lane and in 5th spot. So we're set up here for a very interesting finish here at Pocono. The guy who's led pretty much all the way, starting out of 5th place on a fresh set of tyres and just enough fuel to get to the end, he's going to be rapid, and he will likely be towing Cameron Dance with him.
Well, yeah, and given how quick Sam Blacklock was in the clean air, this is the first time he's really been in the dirty air all race, so how he adapts to that is going to be so crucial to his final race result. Cam Dance having a quick top up under caution. Not the car, the only thing getting fuel on that stop, but yeah, first time for Dirty Air for Sam Blacklock, not the first time for Cam Dance, both of them on fresh tyres. Job Stewart and Cam Dance is showing that men can multitask, apparently, driving the wheel and failing at opening a beer.
He's having trouble getting it open. Oh no!
Only the best and most quality broadcasts on a Friday night on SimSpeed.
Come on, Cam, we're with you.
Not having a good time.
Oh my god! Oh no, I think he's given up. He's given up. There isn't going to be any further top ups for Cam Dance. All right, start swiping on Tinder. God damn!
We love it. But yeah, getting back to the racing, this is going to be very interesting between a slightly unsatisfied Cam Dance who can't get his beer open, and Job Stewart who is on 27 lap old tyres with Sam Block splitting them. So if Cam gets that beer open before we go green, that'll be great for his race, but otherwise I don't think he's going to be able to make it to the end.
Oh, we're hearing an "oh, hang on" from Jay Kennedy. Apparently Cam Dance has got ice all over his gloves. Gloves absolutely saturated, so that's probably going to be an issue for him in opening his bottles, but at least his hands will stay relatively cool in what is a very high-paced environment, racing online. Final adjustment of the glasses for the Kiwi, and we'll get ready to go green here. Scott Rankin is going to lead them away. Job Stewart in second, staying out on those tyres with 9 laps to go. Coming around to 8 to go now at the restart. Stewart's going to be looking over his shoulder because Sam Blacklock and Cameron Dance are coming.
They definitely will be, and Cam Dance will have that red mist descending. He wants to keep that championship lead and he wants that race to be over so he can crack that beer. We're going to bleed that joke dry from the end of the race. Job Stewart leading a big gap to Scott Rankin on the restart. Dan Yeaman right behind him. So this is going to be all to play for. Scott Rankin still holding speed and he goes as soon as he can. Big run up to the line. We look back for Sam Blacklock, who's already got a great start on Tyson Broad and Dan Yeaman in front. They'll be struggling to make the end of the race. We think Dan Yeaman going outside of Tyson Broad, and no! Sam Blacklock gets involved. Cam Dance just avoids it, and after leading all race, that is going to be the absolute opposite to what Sam Blacklock wanted, and he was an innocent bystander in all of that.
Oh man, everyone just gathering up on the exit of the first turn. Yeaman, Broad, and Blacklock all involved in that. My goodness. Okay, so there's a little bit to deconstruct here when we go to our virtual racing school replay in just a couple of seconds. Broad carrying some heavy nose cone damage on the way back into the pits. So Job Stewart is the one we should be focusing on for this replay. He's just up ahead of these guys as they come into turn 1, but he understeers and tries to go down. Tyson Broad getting a bit of understeer and going up into Dan Yeaman. Sam Blacklock had already committed to the outside line at that point.
Yeah, these things move so quickly. That was Brady Carr, I think, getting involved as well. So 2 of 3 drop bag cars getting involved again. This is on board with him now. He's a while away from this accident, and it comes at you so quickly. These guys are going 350 k's an hour. You see the puff of smoke. He does slow down, but then that smoke just acts as a screen and could not see Tyson Broad's car for looking, and unfortunately carrying a lot of damage on his car now.
I guess you could say Tyson was broadside on the track. I'll see myself out on board with Sam Blacklock as they make their way through. And goodness me, yeah, that's a very awkward incident to be in. At that point in the corner, the car was already loaded. Blacklock wouldn't have been able to make any adjustments to his line.
Yeah, and even if he could make an adjustment to his line, there was not really anywhere that he had had to go if he could change, because there was grass on his inside and cars to his outside, or a fence to his outside if he turned too quickly. So because these cars do move so quickly, the slightest input can unsettle the car, and even if he took avoiding action and did manage to miss the car, I think he still would have been in quite a bit of trouble. But both he and Zach Mitchell have decided to call it a night, and that's really unfortunate, because this could have been the round he took the championship lead, and he just, unfortunately, an innocent bystander like so many others tonight.
Yeah, it looks to me like, I see the reason that that Blacklock decided to call it a night. Being the pole sitter, his pit box is all the way at the end of pit lane. He tried to slow down for it, but the car was so heavily damaged that he slid right through the box and out the other side of pit lane. So at that point, there wasn't much that Blacklock could do. That is such a shame for the guy who has been the star of the show tonight. But either way, look who's in second and third. Job Stewart and Cam Dance. Stewart on old tyres. He's been out there for 30 laps, and I'm thinking that Stewart has enough fuel to get to the end at this stage. Scott Rankin definitely does, but Cameron Dance on the fresher tyres. The pace will be with him if he can place his car right.
And we know what Cam Dance is like in these cars. He can absolutely place his car in the right position. It just depends on whether those around him are able to do the same to, because it's a tango. It takes two to tangle in these cars, especially at the speeds that they're doing, 350 k's an hour average speed, give or take. So these guys are moving at, nearly 100 meters a second, which is ridiculously quick. And if someone moves their line so minutely, like we saw with Ben Johnson early in the race, it doesn't take much and you can come untangled. So Cam Dance definitely has the fuel and tyre advantage over these guys, but he just needs to be able to avoid any unfortunate undoings as well.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to negotiate with those two cars on all the tyres up ahead of him. Every chance that once they get into turn one at racing speed for the first time, there could be a bit of understeer for those two, and Dance could get entangled in it. We're not too sure though. We'll come up to 4 laps to go on the restart. Lights are off on the pace car, and God willing, this should be a flat-out dash to the line here in Fixed Indy Australia by Aussie Online Gaming. Really looking forward to the conclusion of this season. It's been a hard-fought championship between Stewart, Dance, and Blacklock. Blacklock with a big disadvantage now, having just taken a retirement in this round. But anything could happen at the final round at Watkins Glen. We'll stay with these guys at Pocono, though, for the final 4 laps of racing as the pace car prepares to pull into the lane. And we'll have to wait a little bit longer for that because they are on the second straight. It's always a bit difficult for me to tell exactly where I am on this track. I mean, turn 1 is definitely recognisable, but I always seem to get turn 2 and 3 confused. I'm not sure why. We'll see then the pace car pulling in this time round. And the start will be with the number 49 of Scott Rankin. Let's see what he can do. Stays high, out of the corner. Pace car pulls in. Rankin immediately goes, and the green flag flies. Barney begins waving as we are racing for what we hope is the final time here at Pocono Raceway. And the draft is already active for Job Stewart. Breezing up to the back of Scott Rankin, coming into turn 1. Takes a bit of a tighter line through the corner. Rankin taking a later apex. Cameron Dance now starting to round up Job Stewart in a straight line here. Those fresh tyres working brilliantly for the Fitzstein Motorsport number 6. Is he going to make the move into turn 2? There was a bit of a fade to the left from Job Stewart to try and keep him behind, but they will stay side by side and make contact. Job Stewart getting sent into the wall by Cameron Dance.
I wouldn't say Job getting sent into the wall by Cam Dance. I think that was a very unfortunate coming together between the two. Space was left, but unfortunately at the speeds that they're going, Cam didn't have much room to go. He held his line and they kind of met in the middle, but green flag running with 3 laps to go. Gap up in front is 0.8 of a second. I don't know what Cam's speed is like, if he's carrying any damage, but He is within 0.6 of a second, so he's very close to taking this win. Dan Stevens, after his 60,000 pit stops, is in third position, leading Tyson Broad by 0.6 of a second. So 2 battle packs, one for first and one for second now. One for third, sorry. And that battle for third goes all the way back to Dan Yeaman in 6th position. So Job Stewart's parked it perpendicular again, but the other way into his pit box now. He's the last car on the lead lap for now. Brady Carr will be the last car on the lead lap very shortly. But this battle pack still down to half a second. I don't know how slow Cam Dances takes that slightly higher line again. Helps with the weight jacker and continuing the speed, and Broad catching Stevens now for third position. This one isn't done, and we have about 1 kilometre left until the white flag, so still so much more could happen.
So much indeed. Tyson Broad weaving in response to Daniel Stevens. Scott Rankin was also breaking the draft of Cameron Dance up at the front of the field. We'll check out that incident again between Stewart and Dance after the race, but white flag flies. Rankin is still in the lead. Does Cameron Dance have enough in those tyres to round up Rankin here on the final lap of the race? Higher line once again. It'll translate into some great momentum down the first of our 2 back straights, but it seems Rankin has the advantage. He's working it really nicely out in the front, and he has that gap as they come through turn 2. Cameron just avoiding getting into the wall out of turn 2. The gap comes down and down, but it's not going to be enough for the Kiwi. Well, with that incident with Job Stewart, Cam Dance will likely take the championship lead here, but winning honours today will go to Scott Rankin in the number 49. Fantastic stuff there for the Indy Autosports driver, as Tyson Broad spun into the pit lane with heavy contact.
Yeah, he hasn't crossed the finish line either, because I saw that in the background. I flipped back to see what was happening between Broad and Stevens coming out of turn 2, and he just got a massive amount of aero wash. He finally crosses the line backwards within the pit speed limit as well, just to make sure he doesn't get a black flag to boot. But he'll finish 7th. Sebastian Flock managing to pass him just in time, but that was very unfortunate. This is the replay now. Gets a little bit wide coming out of turn 3 and just gets walloped by that wall, and very similar to Matt Bowler, just careens toward the inside pit wall, and thankfully again no one there to get seriously injured.
Indeed. Well, we'll see it from this view. Oh dear. If you're standing in that location, that would be a very scary sight to see. But it's going to be the end of running tonight. Scott Rankin by 0.6 from Cameron Dance, with Daniel Stevens holding off the likes of Tyson Broad, Dan Yeaman to finish in 3rd place. Yeaman 4th, Blair Bowler in 5th. Sebastian Flock will come home in 6th. First car a lap down. Same for Tyson Broad, with Brady Carr and Job Stewart and Sam Blacklock all retiring. That is your top 10. Zach Mitchell also coming away with a retirement, the same as said for Matthew Bowler, Nathan Gardner, Simon Mazzomo, Mitchell McLeod, Zach Kerr, and Benjamin Johnson. And Kerr and Johnson, the incident between them was what brought out the first caution. So before we go into our driver interviews, I want to take another look at that incident between Cameron Dance and Job Stewart, because it was interesting to see what happened between those two. It was very close, very tight racing, and Cameron Dance was on the inside of Job when the incident actually happened. I'm not too sure how to call it though. It just seems to me like Stewart did turn in and give Dance the room on the inside of turn 2, but it looks to me like Dance just got a bit of understeer on from turning in a bit early. We'll get a look at it here now. So Stewart behind Scott Rankin, Cameron Dance rounding him up here on the run to turn 2, and if we can go into slow-mo at this point, that would be awesome as well. Coming down into turn 2, yeah, you see Dance, he was already on a slightly compromised line coming into the corner, turned in early. Stewart gave him the space on the inside, but you'll see at about this point, Dance's front tyres go away from him, and Job, still squeezing him down to the bottom, makes contact.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate incident for Job as well, especially with Cam Dance finishing in second spot. If Sam Blacklock, Job Stewart, and Cam Dance all had misfortunes in that race, it could have been a very, very interesting final race, but that does give Cam Dance the advantage. But at the speeds they were doing, it really didn't take much, and you could... Yeah, it's such a difficult one to call because Job comes down for the corner. Maybe Cam wasn't expecting him to come down as much, and Job thought he left enough space on the inside, but then Cam comes up into him, and it's such a very difficult one to call. But the easy way to call it is Job Stewart came off worse from it, and I think that's about the best you can do in that situation.
Indeed. Well, the car we focus on stopped across the start-finish line, the car with top honours tonight, and the driver is in the comms box with us now. Scott Rankin joins us. Congratulations, Scott. Fantastic victory there. What was it like from your perspective trying to negotiate all those cautions?
It was just about, it's about being the first guy to make the pit stop that gets you home. Because it's all about track position, it's all about timing it. Pitting at any stage during the night was the riskiest call to make, because it puts you at the back end of the field around guys that you haven't raced against all night, and in just a major train where if one guy makes an error, there's 5 cars in the fence. I think you saw that. That's Indy racing. Ultimately, I think it's also legacy Pocono, just the bumps, the unsteadiness. It's a lower grip circuit compared to the current gen Pocono as well. So look, to be perfectly honest, doing some practice races this week, I would say that's about where I expected it to end up. So, but just had to play the fuel. When it went green there for a fair while, I was fairly worried though. So,
so that final caution came out at a very opportune time for you.
Oh yeah, look, I mean, I was just talking to Cam and Dan down in the pre-race post-race booth, and I said to the guys, look, I mean, I sort of made the commitment that I want one more caution, and I think we'll get it. When it will be and what will cause it, I don't know. So I've just got to make sure that I'm still alive, and that was pretty much the strategy all night. Clean air here, you just can't. Unfortunately, it's a symptom of the current package that the Indy Car has. Last season, the Indy Car was a lot better for racing. They made some updates to the tyre model in the way that it deals with heat, and then also the draft package as well. And the dirty air it's just so hard to drive through at the moment. So you couldn't get close to the car ahead. So instead of getting close, it was about managing your tyres. It was about managing your fuel, and that's the race that I ran tonight, and made a risky call pitting as early as I did, but it turned out to be the right call.
Well, either way, that brings to an end the oval portion of the season. Can we expect you at Watkins Glen for the final round?
I think I've got to show up now. Normally we actually have a Dungeons and Dragons session tonight, but the Dungeon Master actually called us this morning and said, hey guys, not on. I've been having a little bit of a bad week. Broke a finger actually last weekend, so
Ow.
I'm in a fair bit of pain. Had to take painkillers to get through racing like this, and this is the second Indy Car podium this week on painkillers, so I'm high on adrenaline right now, that's for sure.
Very nice stuff, Scott. Well, before we let you go, you obviously have a few people to thank for your victory.
Yeah, first and foremost, start off with the league admins. You can't get good racing. You can't get a league going without somebody committing to it. So I want to say a big shout out to Aussie Online Gaming. Risk they took with running an IndyCar series, and I think there's some success stories here. A lot of people will be looking at the number of cautions and saying, oh, there's not a lot of successes, but that's oval racing. You've got to learn to get through it, and it's not stock car racing. So a big shout out to Dan and the team here at AOG. I want to say a very big shout out to somebody that's been pushing me in the chat lately. That's Lachlan Capital, 16-year-old kid who's making his way within the iRacing world, and the kid basically just keeps making me want to jump on the sim, and it makes me want to improve because I don't want to be beat by a 16-year-old, and mindset and everything, because I'm thinking about the way that I'm doing things. So big shout out to Lockie. I want to say a big shout out to my teammates, the Indy Autosports guys. Can't do it without these guys. Had a session with them this morning. It really reset my mindset, made me feel a little bit better in the car. Big shout out to my personal sponsors, 24/7 Sim Services with the rebrand over the last couple of weeks. Can't say a big enough thank you to John Hancock and those guys. They do a great job. As well as Flat Out Racing Network. And then personally, finally, the Indy Autosports sponsors of Martin Sports Apparel and SimCoin and SimThunder. If you're looking for a sim racing related Bitcoin, SimCoin's the way to go. So.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. Scott Rankin, race winner here tonight at Pocono Raceway. Second place on the road was Cameron Dance, stood by with Brad Wingard in a bit of a controversial last few laps.
Good evening, Cam. Yes, like Reece said, that was a bit controversial towards the end. Of course, we've known you for quite a while. You're not the sort of person to just take out someone in the closing stages of a race or a championship, but talk us through that one from your perspective, because we can watch all the camera angles we want, but unless we hear it from the drivers, it doesn't really mean squat.
To be honest, it was just, I don't know, it just looked like from inside the car at least, it just looked like a racing incident. Inside the car, I wasn't sure if I got squeezed or whether we sort of drifted up into each other or what happened. But looking back, it's hard to tell. I mean, from where I was position wise on the track, I don't think I really could have done much more, and just the nature of the corner, I washed out a little bit, and by the looks of it, Job sort of come down into me. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure who's really at fault. It's kind of a bit of both, since we've kind of drifted into each other a little bit. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's just a little bit unfortunate that that's ended up happening, especially right at the end of the race, and with the championship so close as it is. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate, but just have to take it as it is.
Yeah, it's just the nature of IndyCar racing at speeds like this. But we go to Watkins Glen next week, of course. Very different to some of the tracks we've been at so far. I think Motegi would probably be close because it's fast and twisty, but any sort of preview you can give us for that compared to some of the previous road races we've been at?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good race, to be honest. Watkins usually produces a lot of good racing on its own, regardless of the car, to be honest. So looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. Obviously, there's the championship on the line, and still points are very, very close. So it's going to be, and obviously there's going to be a few strong drivers as well, with the fact that it's a road circuit rather than a oval as well. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, we're going to go out there guns blazing, but yeah. It's going to be a good race from what officials have done before, and what the fact that track's very, very draft orientated as well. So we'll see what happens, but it's looking like it's going to be a good race.
Awesome. And before we move away from the ovals entirely, was that kind of what you were expecting Pocono to be, like lots of cautions, or were you expecting a bit of a cleaner race? Because like Scott said, that is the nature of oval racing, but sometimes you expect less cautions than we had today. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on that quickly, if that was a relative Pocono race or if that was kind of average by your standards.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. This track's kind of a bit of both, because it's very different at every single corner, and then the fact you've also got the fact that's a super speedway. I mean, we did quite well at Atlanta, and Vegas as well. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened here, but wasn't quite expecting so many cautions, if I'm perfectly honest. But yeah, it is what it is. This track is quite hard, and for some reason, it also does seem to lend itself to a few accidents where I guess people aren't quite used to the fact that you're going into some of these corners that are a little bit tighter than what you'd think they are, especially at the speed you're doing. So yeah, it's one of those learning curves, this track, and it's by no means easy, but yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting as many cautions tonight.
Yeah, it was very anyone's guess, I think. Before we let you go tonight, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just obviously shout out to the boys at TechSense Fitline Motorsport, and our partners TechSense Sensors, Renville Harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight CRC, Majors Garage, Sim3D, you guys for the awesome broadcast, Dan and the team for the awesome series, and all the boys for the awesome racing.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Cam, and we will see you next week for the grand finale at Watkins Glen.
Yep, will do. Cheers, guys.
Good stuff there from Cam Dance. And our final driver interview of the night, third place, Daniel Stevens. Well, Dan, luck hasn't fallen your way all the way through this season, and you repeated what we've seen from you all season, pitting every lap under caution as much as you could anyway. It finally worked out for you.
Yeah, I seem to do that quite a lot. I find myself down the tail end of the pack. It's just the best strategy you can pretty much do. But I found out that sometimes when I came in to do some of those pit stops, there wasn't actually enough room in the tank to put fuel in, so I was actually just going through the pit lane for nothing.
Oh, well, Either way, pretty good run to third in the final stages of the race. How was it from your perspective? Because certainly there were quite a few crashes out there tonight.
Yeah, there was a few cars that dodged along the way. Yeah, too many cautions. Just people just making silly mistakes, just silly moves, and just not taking their time. It's a long race. You can't win it in the first 10 or so. You've got to get to the end, and if you crash out, you're not going to get there.
Well, get there you did, and now that momentum is with you, are you looking to carry that into the final round at Watkins?
To be honest, I thought I was going to do quite well in the series, being the Indy Car and stuff like that, because I've driven it, a bit in a few tracks. But there's some fast guys in this league, and road courses in this car aren't my forte. So I'll just get to the start line and see how I do, and hopefully I finish.
Hopefully indeed, and we hope to have another chance to talk to you after the event is done. But before we let you go, Dan, anyone you'd like to thank from your garage for your podium?
You mate, just Mad-As Designs, WP Concreting, Snap-on Tools, Aussie Signs and Designs, Virtual Car Art, MF Racing, just you guys in the broadcast, do an awesome job every weekend, week out, and just to the guys that are racing tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Daniel Stevens, for joining us. Hopefully, we wish you the best of luck at Watkins Glen to end the season. And that's going to bring to an end proceedings for tonight. Brad, we're looking at the track we'll be racing at next week. Watkins Glen, newly upgraded by iRacing for the past season. A new surface, new graphics, new everything. It's going to be great.
Yeah, definitely will. It's going to be very different to, the old Watkins Glen and old Pocono that we just finished at. A lot smoother, a lot quicker, and that bus stop chicane is, I think, going to be a big talking point for us during that race, because that has probably changed the most out of the rest of the circuit in the way you drive it. So it's 28 laps, 29 laps around there next week, so that's going to be a fantastic way to finish the season, and I, for one, cannot wait to see the racing that the guys put on next week.
Neither can I. We hope you can join us for that next Friday night at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Well, that was Fixed Indy Australia, Round 7 from Pocono Raceway. I'm Reese Gardner, it's Brad Wingard alongside me, and Jay Kennedy on production. Here at SimSpeed TV, we say thank you for watching, and catch you very soon.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh, my God. Oh, big crash. Oh, my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.